Ocarina of Time, in spite of its success, had a ton of stuff left on the cutting room floor, and it was planned before the game would even release to make an expansion for the game using the 64DD, a fool's errand to begin with. But a lot of people on the Zelda team, such as Eiji Aonuma, did not want to make the Ura Zelda expansion, and so Shigeru Miyamoto proposed an alternative. If Aonuma and his team could make a new Zelda game in exactly 1 year, they wouldn't have to make Ura Zelda. What resulted was short of a miracle. Due to the short intention-filled development, a lot of decisions were being made that most other Nintendo games just would normally not do. Experimental mechanics were being thrown in with little testing, the game was forced to reuse as much of Ocarina's assets as they could, and in one instance, Aonuma's own nightmare made it into the game by complete and utter coincidence. Any normal game developed like this would be an awful mess, but for some strange reason, this new Zelda game would be anything but. On April 20th of 2000, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask would release and would be an instant hit. By crunching so much to get the game done on time, the Zelda team tapped into this weird and bizarre creative state that only served to benefit the game. While not a proper sequel to Ocarina per se, it used Ocarina to make something so wholly unique. This game also holds a unique place in my life as it was the first Zelda game that I ever played. I don't remember specifics about my first time, but I do remember that this game put the fear of God into me. There are multiple reasons as to why, and I'll get into what I can remember in a bit, but I was always so scared of this game that I wouldn't even really touch it again until I was much older. That's a fear that still, admittedly, looms over me to this day. Even with the 3DS remake that released in 2015, I still struggle to go back to this one because of what happens if you fail. I suppose, if anything, this recent playthrough and video can help ease my mind on this game a bit. So let's just dive right on in and talk about Majora's Mask and the power of trauma. Alright, so let's recap events. After defeating Ganondorf and being sent back to his lost childhood by Princess Zelda, Navi, after all was said and done, just kind of left Link hanging, and this must have bothered the boy, because we open this new adventure with Link riding Epona in the Lost Woods, searching for his friend. The dense fog and dark atmosphere of the Lost Woods makes it hard to see, and a great spot for Epona to get spooked by two forest fairies belonging to this Skull Kid with this freaky looking mask. The Skull Kid takes the ocarina and begins to mess with it. However, when Link gets back up, he tries to get the ocarina back, but the Skull Kid and the fairies make off with it and Epona, with Link giving chase. This leads Link to this hole in the ground where we experience one hell of a light show. Or an acid trip, depending on how you want to look at it. We land next to this pond where the Skull Kid taunts us before using the power of his mask to have Link experience this awful nightmare that when he comes to, he finds himself transformed into a Deku Scrub. He laughs at our anguish and he leaves with one of the fairies, Tattle, knocking us down to stop us from following Skull Kid, but this leads her to be separated from her brother Tail, who sticks with the Skull Kid. Link uses his new Deku form on these flowers to cross these gaps, which leads to this weird place where we encounter the Happy Mask Salesman. He explains to us that the Skull Kid stole a mask of great importance from him and offers to help us return to normal if we get our ocarina and the mask back. The catch is that in 3 days he'll leave, so we have a time limit placed on us for this journey. Finally, we step outside into Clock Town, the center town in the land of Termina, a parallel world to Hyrule, where you'll spot some familiar faces, but living completely different lives. The Cuckoo Lady in Hyrule is Anju, the innkeeper here in Termina. In Hyrule, Ingo was this egotistical farmhand, but in Termina, Gorman is an entertainer who is just simply down on his luck. Another thing you'll pick up on, aside from the people of Termina being racist towards Deku Scrubs, is that Termina is a hell of a lot more depressing than Hyrule. Shit seems like it is just going wrong everywhere here. Everyone has some kind of baggage to them, and when you look up, you see exactly what has everyone just a little freaked out. The moon, the face it has, why does it look like that? It's so hard to describe how it looks. It doesn't look 100% angry or sad. It's this weird contortion of negative emotions, hate, sorrow, envy, pain. It's so freaky and so unique that I don't think I've ever really seen anything like it in another video game. The first time you're here in Termina isn't very exciting and mostly just serves to show you how bad shit is. The first day isn't that bad though. You can restore the Great Fairy to get a magic spit attack, but aside from that, you can't really do much. The guards won't let you leave. These kids, the bombers, they won't let you join their club because they're racist. And is the moon getting bigger? Alright, well it's raining now. I still can't really do much aside from just talk to people. The moon, it wasn't that big before, was it? The moon was definitely not that big before. The moon was definitely not that big before. The moon, if it hasn't become apparent, the moon is slowly falling towards Termina and will inevitably crash into the land, and now Happy Mask's deadline makes a whole lot of sense. At midnight on the final day, the entryway to the top of the clock tower will open up, allowing us to head up and encounter Skull Kid. Tale tells us to head to the four corners of Termina and bring them here. However, it seems that there's little that we can do within these final few minutes before the moon crashes down. That is, unless we use our magic spit to knock the ocarina from Skull Kid's hands and get it back. Link then has a flashback to just before he left, where he informed the young Princess Zelda of his departure, and through this, we're able to remember the Song of Time and play out on our Deku pipes. We arrive back in front of the clock tower on the first day, as the full extent of the gameplay loop now becomes apparent. But first, we gotta get our curse lifted by the mask salesman, who ends up losing his shit when he finds out that we didn't get the mask back. You see, the mask the Skull Kid has is none other than Majora's Mask, an ancient mask used in old hexing rituals that is said to contain dark and evil powers and bestows them upon whomever wears it, and given that it is now on the face of a mischievous forest imp, it is imperative that we get that mask back. We have our objective and how to achieve it. It's suggested that we head to the southern swamp first, but there's actually plenty of things that we can do around Clocktown and Termina now that we're back to our normal Hylian form. You see, while there's nothing stopping you from doing what's required of you to enter and clear the four temples dotting the land to beat the game as quick as possible, I would advise against doing that, because you would effectively be missing out on about 75% of the entire game. Majora's Mask heavily relies on side quests. It's the only Zelda game that I know of prior to Breath of the Wild to have some kind of quest journal as a result to keep track of what items you've gotten from who and those people's daily schedules. Doing these quests can lead to you getting all sorts of rewards like heart pieces, of which there are now 52 of this time around, more than any previous Zelda game. There are other rewards you can get as well, but the heavy hitters here are the masks. Of course, a game called Majora's Mask places heavy emphasis on masks. There are 24 in total, and all of them serve some kind of purpose, no matter how small or mundane. One lets you read the thoughts of dogs to figure out which one is most likely to win a race. Another acts as a membership to a milk bar, or the Bunny Hood, which doubles Link's movement speed. And you know, if the Bunny Hood functioned like this in Ocarina of Time, I probably would have actually cut Hyrule Field a little more slack. The big three masks are the Deku, Goron, and Zora masks, the transformation masks as they're called. Equipping these will transform Link into the respective race, which comes with a whole slew of unique abilities. Deku Link can use these flowers to glide certain distances, as well as hop across water and shoot spit. Goron Link has a slow walking speed, but he can curl into a ball and roll around, and after gaining enough speed, you become this spinning spiked ball of doom that can roll around at blistering speeds. That's not even mentioning this punch-punch-kick combo, or this ground pound that you have as a Goron. Lastly is Zora Link, who isn't anything special, you know, just a very simple attack combo, boomerang fins, and the best goddamn swimming controls I've ever experienced in a video game. I'm not kidding, this shit rocks. It's so fun and simple to pick up, but mastering it can be such a trick, and if you do, you can pull off some really cool shit like dolphin diving out of water to reach high places, and that's not even mentioning that by pressing Z, you can manifest this magical electric barrier that eats enemies for breakfast. In order to get these masks, you have to heal someone. Of course, getting the Deku mask is easy, you just get healed yourself, but the Goron and the Zora ones, those ones are a bit interesting. You do this by playing this new song, the Song of Healing, and each time you do, you get to witness these oddly beautiful and melancholic scenes, which tell you about the respective person. Darmani was a proud Goron warrior who wants to protect the Gorons of Snowhead from this damnable winter, and Mikau was a member of the Zora band, the Indigogos, who wanted to rescue some Zora eggs to hopefully bring his band's vocalist Lulu out of her funk and get her voice back. It's a very somber feeling that these people unfortunately have to pass, but there is some comfort in knowing that by using the masks that we get from their souls, we can accomplish and fulfill their goals in their stead. That's the thing about Majora's Mask. While it still has that Zelda charm to it, it's a very sorrowful game. One where it's up to you to help as many people as you can, but it's made all the more tragic in that it won't stay like that forever due to the 3-day time limit, forcing us to use the Song of Time to warp back to the beginning of the first day, undoing all of that happiness we made. But we do always have something to show for it, whether that be a heart piece or a mask. We're stuck in this perpetual Groundhog Day loop, and there's little that we can do about it. There's little that I can do about it. I suppose I should mention my first time with this game. I got my N64 along with a bunch of games for my birthday one year, and the Majora's Mask cartridge always stuck out to me with its gold exterior and holographic label. I remember putting it in my N64 and not really knowing what to do. There was a file on it already, which had all 3 transformation masks, and I would play around with it, explore, but there wasn't really much that I knew to do. Then, after about an hour after I started the game, the final few hours of the game began, where you're supposed to go and confront Skull Kid, but I didn't know to do that, and I just continued running around until the game faded to white. I then watched as the moon crashed into the clock tower and destroyed Clocktown, sending a blaze of hellfire across Termina, with Link being blown away from my failure. Majora's Mask then faded into the plume of fire as the laughter of the Happy Mask salesman played alongside some unforgettable words showing up on screen. You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you? I was mortified. My lack of action got those people in Clocktown, hell, all of Termina killed. It was the first time I ever felt helpless in a video game, and the worst part of it all, I was only 3 years old. I remember being genuinely scared of this game after that, so much so that I would rarely put it in my N64 afterwards. And whenever I did, I would mostly just explore, but I would always turn the game off when it got to the final day out of fear. It wouldn't be until years later that I would finally give this game an honest shot, but even then, that initial experience still lingered over me. The main reason that I had that experience in the first place was because solely I was still a toddler and thus I couldn't read. I didn't even know how to use something like the ocarina properly, which has a greater importance in this game over Ocarina of Time, ironically. In that game, the ocarina was mostly used for solving puzzles, while here, you still use it for that, but mastery of this instrument is essential if you want to avoid the moon crashing down. You see, the 72 hours that you have to save the world aren't actually 72 real-life hours. All said and done, it's actually more close to about an hour, with each day lasting about 20 minutes. That's not a lot of time, but by playing the inverted Song of Time, you can slow down the flow of time, which makes each day last roughly an hour, giving you about 3 hours to do what you need. There's also the Song of Double Time, which actually works a bit differently between the N64 and 3DS versions. On the N64, it lets you jump ahead to the next night or dawn, while on the 3DS, you can skip to whichever hour of the current 12-hour interval that you please. Speaking of which, in 2015, Majora's Mask would be remade for the Nintendo 3DS, but unlike Ocarina of Time 3D, I actually think that this version is the inferior one. There are some quality of life improvements made, like the change to the Double Song of Time, as well as the obvious graphical upgrade, but I feel the graphics in the 3DS version actually work against the vibe of the original game. Take the stock pot in, for example, which is noticeably cleaner in the 3DS version as opposed to the N64, which looks a little filthy. Not to mention the lighting changes kill some of the moodiness. There's also some other changes to actual gameplay elements, like the Zora swimming and momentum. The 3DS version is easier, I will give it that, but for me, I just prefer the look and the original mechanics of the N64 version. Not to mention, I just have more of a fondness for this version that inflicted emotional damage onto me as a toddler. There's also a PC port of Majora put together by the same folks that did the Ocarina PC port, and it too has largely the same benefits as that one, so I won't spend too much time talking about it here. Your goal is to awaken the 4 giants of Termina by clearing the 4 temples across the land. In order to get to them, you have to go through the different areas of Termina. The Southern Swamp, which is dealing with a poison problem, Snowhead, which is undergoing a fucked up winter event, Great Bay, which has superheated waters, making it difficult for most fish to even live in it, and Icona Valley, which is infested with the spirits of the restless dead. Connecting all of these lands together is Termina Field, which unlike Hyrule Field is actually fun to explore. There's actually stuff to do here, finding holes in the ground that lead to secret caves, plenty of bushes and enemies to slash at, and since you have plenty of means of faster travel, traversing it isn't a chore. You can even get Epona back at Romani Ranch, where the little girl herself seems to have had something done to her. She looks pretty out of it. If you actually come here on the first day, you'll find out that she wants to protect the farm's cows from actual space aliens, and if you agree to help her and actually prove yourself, she'll give you Epona back. And if you actually stick around and successfully fight off the aliens, Romani's older sister, Crimea, will ask you to accompany her and send off some bandits trying to steal her shipment of milk. I like Crimea. She seems pretty cool, and I'm not saying that because her in-game model makes her look like she has a giant pair of... The dungeons dotting Termina are pretty large and will take some time to clear. I know I complained about the length of the adult dungeons in Ocarina, but I oddly don't mind them in this game since there's only 4 as opposed to 8 full dungeons and 2 mini dungeons in the previous one. They all take advantage of that area's respective transformations with the exception of Stone Tower Temple, which is easily the worst dungeon in the entire game. It requires the usage of all 4 transformation masks, and while that's not the problem that necessarily bothers me, it's the constant need to play the Elegy of Emptiness to spawn these statues, and it's so frequent that by the end of this dungeon I am so tired of playing this damn song. And another thing, why do these statues that you summon look so fucking freaky? Who designed these? Why do they look like that? Hi Ben, everyone say hi to Ben, because after this shit I'm gonna go drown myself with how repetitive this dungeon is. The bosses of the temples also play into the not like your normal Zelda game theme. They don't have clear weak points, and in fact, if you know what to do, you can actually just wail on them with reckless abandon. Although, what are these names? Odawa and Twin Mold sound right, but Georg for the first, and you called the goat boss Goat? The only one of these 3 bosses that I actually find to be pretty difficult is Georg, as he's actually really aggressive and can fuck you up quickly if you're not sure what to do. Twin Mold, on the other hand, is the easiest and honestly most fun of the bosses, as if you get the Giant's Mask to become as big as them, you can just beat the everlasting shit out of them, and it is so rewarding. Defeating each of the bosses will lift the curse placed on the respective lands. The swamp has its poison drained, Snowhead finally sees spring come at last, Great Bay's waters return to a cool temperature, and Icona's dead can finally rest. It makes things just a little better for everyone, restoring happiness to the world bit by bit. Defeating the bosses also allows you to call upon that area's giant, which you can do at the top of the clock tower with the song Oath to Order. The catch is that you'll need all 4 of them present, as they cannot stop the moon from falling without all 4. It gives you a little glimmer of hope in this world that there's some kind of light at the end of this nightmare. You know, I think how unique Termina is compared to Hyrule or even Koholint from Link's Awakening is what gives this game the status that it has in the community. In no other Zelda game is there a quest where you have to help 2 lovers in getting married, where if you succeed, they stay in each other's embrace in the final hours before the moon crashes down. In no other Zelda game do you need to rescue a Deku princess to save this monkey from being brutally tortured. In no other Zelda game is there a character who isn't a villain cowering in fear because he is afraid that he is going to die. And Tingle. Yeah, he made his debut in this game, actually. You know, Tingle. Everyone loves Tingle, right? Come on. The thing is that it's all up to you to save these people, restore their happiness, and return peace to Termina. You have the tools necessary to stop that moon from falling down and defeating Skull Kid. This is all brought together by a soundtrack that can be joyful, adventurous, grim, and sorrowful. When I think of this game, I always think about Clock Town and how as the days go on, the music actually changes to match the mood of the townsfolk. Places like the Astral Observatory is a beautiful place, and it just so happens to have one of the most beautiful pieces of music in the game to match it. Lastly is the Song of Healing, this melancholic piano piece, which is often used as the means to put sorrowful spirits to rest. Once you've cleared all 4 temples and have gotten everything that you need, you can head up to confront Skull Kid in the final hours and play the Oath to Order, which will summon the 4 giants who together manage to at long last stop the moon from falling. It seems that the day has finally been saved, until Majora's Mask itself discards Skull Kid as a garbage puppet and flies inside the moon, which is now starting to come down even harder than it was before. Together, Link and Tattle head inside the moon, which is this oddly serene and kind of off-putting field with this lone tree in the center. You can find these children running around wearing the masks of the 4 main bosses, which each of them will challenge you to a game of hide and seek where you have to use the abilities of the 4 forms that you have to find them. You can even nab the last 4 heart pieces while you're here. As you go along though, they'll demand more masks out of you until you're completely out. Finally, we can talk to the child wearing Majora's Mask, and if you got all 20 non-transformation masks and gave them to the other children, he'll actually give you the Fierce Deity Mask and challenges us to one final battle, where we are the bad guys. We are then warped to this room with Majora's Mask hanging on the far wall. If you got the Fierce Deity Mask, then you can actually equip it to transform into Fierce Deity Link, who is a juggernaut of pure pain. We now have to fight Majora's Mask itself, which Fierce Deity Link can make easy work of. Even its other forms aren't much trouble. Majora's incarnation and its movements prove to be nothing, and by the time it transforms into Majora's Wrath, I am doing everything I can to pummel this godforsaken mask into oblivion for all the trauma it caused me as a child. At long last, Majora is defeated, and we witness the satisfying title card, Dawn of a New Day, appear on screen. The moon returns to its original place in the sky as the Skull Kid apologizes for all the trouble that he's caused. However, he then recognizes us as the fairy boy who taught him Saria song back in Ocarina of Time. The happy mask salesman thanks us for finally getting Majora's Mask back, as he then leaves Termina, with Link hopping on Epona and bidding farewell to Tattletale and the Skull Kid, as the people of Termina celebrate their Carnival of Time, where we even get to witness Anju and Kafei get married. Finally, we see Link roaming the Lost Woods yet again in search of Navi, except this time, there's nothing to spook Epona now, as we can finally end our journey through Majora's Mask. It's interesting now that I've finally beaten this game, as it feels like this weight has been lifted off my shoulders, but call me crazy, I'll oddly kind of miss it. This is a very important game to me for a lot of reasons. Yeah, it put the fear of God into me at such a young age, but that's an experience that I'll never forget, and this game has always intrigued me, and now that it's done, I feel all sorts of emotions, but I'm glad I finally beat it and can say with certainty that Majora's Mask is one of the best Zelda games I've ever played. It's not perfect, and some issues that I had with Ocarina still persist, such as the menus, but I do enjoy this game for what it offers so much more. The world of Termina is just much more interesting, and the gameplay gimmicks feel so fresh and are something that the series would never really do again, not in this way at least. It's beautiful, depressing, and hopeful, and as a Zelda game, it's unlike any other. It can be tough, and I imagine that time limit can be off-putting to some people, but I implore you, please take a chance and experience this masterpiece. Well, that's gonna be it for Zelda for now, but when we do return, we'll go ahead and tackle the rest of Zelda's console lineup, starting from Wind Waker and going all the way to Echoes of Wisdom? Really? Okay, but for now, I gotta get my ass into high gear as I got a lot of Mavericks to take down. Subscribe to the channel if that sounds fun to you, and leave a like and a comment should you choose. With all of that said, have a great day or night. Peace.